Hello friends and fellow bibliophiles, welcome back to Kat's Novel Adventures. In today's video, I am sharing a book haul comprised mainly of horror books with a couple of dark fantasy along with a nonfiction. Many months ago, my amazing friend Kelsi at Slime and Slashers was unhauling a bunch of books, and she asked if I wanted any of them. And of course, I could not say no. It's very hard for me to say no to books. I brought them home, looked through them, and discovered that two of them, My Heart is a Chainsaw and Nothing But Blackened Teeth, I already have those on my shelf. So I sent those to my friend Alex over at Frank Fiction. I knew that she would enjoy them. And that left me with 25 books, and those are the books I'm going to share with you today. Many of these books are new to me authors, and several of them are indie horror writers. So I'm very excited to try some of these authors out and see if I like their writing. Now, with that being said, I'm not 100% sure if I'm going to read every one of the books that I'm going to share with you today, and that's only because I'm not a fan of extreme horror, so that will come into play, but all of the books really do sound great. I already read one of the 25 books, and that's where I'm going to start. It happens to be in a group of books that I would consider supernatural horror, and that is The Possession of Natalie Glasgow by Haley Piper. I read this for a week of Weird Round 4 back in September. If you want to hear my thoughts on this book as well as my other weird reads, please check out my vlog. I'll leave a link in the description box below. But this is a very unique possession story. I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed Haley Piper's writing. It was my introduction to Haley Piper, and I plan to read some more of her work in the future. And then the next book is a haunted house story, and it is called Burnt Offerings by Robert Marasco. There is a new introduction by Stephen Graham Jones, who is one of my new favorite authors. But this is about a couple who live in Queens. It's noisy. They live in an apartment and they want to get out of the city. So they end up renting for $900 a month for a season a really nice mansion in upstate New York. Now the catch is they will have to prepare meals for an elderly lady that lives in the home pretty far into the home. So they're not really close to where she's at. However, they never ever see the lady. She never comes out of her room. And then some terrifying and weird things start happening in the house. So I'm pretty excited about that one because I happen to love haunted house stories. So we shall see. The next book is by an author I have read before, and that is Anaya Alborn. This is Within These Walls. I read her book, The Shuddering, and really enjoyed it. So I'm looking forward to reading some more of her work. This is a supernatural thriller, but I think it also has some horror elements to it. With his marriage on the rocks and his life in shambles, washed-up true crime writer Lucas Graham is desperate for a comeback. One more shot at the best-selling success he once enjoyed. His chance comes when he's promised exclusive access to death row inmate Jeffrey Holcomb, the notorious cult leader and mass murderer who's ready to break his silence after 30 years, and who contacted Lucas personally from his maximum security cell. With nothing left to lose, Lucas leaves New York to live in and work from the scene of the crime, a split-level farmhouse on a gray sanded beach in Washington state, whose foundation is steeped in the blood of Holcomb's diviners. So I think this sounds really interesting. It's got cult vibes to it. Don't know really anything more than what is on the back of this book. So it should be interesting. And then next is a book by Gemma Amor called 6 Rooms. I haven't read anything by Gemma Amor, but I think this is another haunted house story. Let me see what it says inside here. 6 Rooms is a chilling ghost story that is full of her usual prose magic and haunting imagery. This deftly crafted paranormal yarn will chill the very marrow of your bones whilst the frenetic pace and readability of Amour's words will get your heart pumping until you turn the final page and can once more breathe easily. This is more than a ghost story. This is a story about belonging, a story of finding one's place in the world, but above all else, it is a unique and masterful book that takes the paranormal trope and crafts something truly magical. And that was written by Ross Jeffrey, who is a Bram Stoker nominated author of Tomb Juniper and Only the Stains Remain. So hopefully this will be a good time as well. Another haunted house story. And then the last one that I would fit in this category is called Dark Halls by Jeff Amenapace. Have never read anything by him either, but that cover, oh my goodness, so creepy. This takes place at Highland Elementary. It has a dark and disturbing past, so disturbing that locals ultimately burned the school to the ground. Years later, Pinewood Elementary is the future, and for new teacher Ryan Erb, a chance at a fresh start. But the townspeople don't believe that rebuilding the school and changing its name is enough. They believe that whatever evil inhabited the halls of Highland still dwells in Pinewood. Ryan is a realist and isn't the type to be affected by local lore. But when Ryan begins to experience horrifying visions of past tragedies, he starts to question his own beliefs. So that sounds like that is going to be a good time. The next book is Cirque Berserk by Jessica Guest. This is number 4 in the Rewind or Die series. Back in the summer of 1989, there was a massacre at Cirque Berserk. A bunch of teenagers killed a dozen people and then they disappeared. Fast forward 30 years, you've got best friends Sam and Rochelle. They're on a senior trip and they're kind of bored. They hear about this urban legend and they decide that they and a couple of their friends are going to go check out to see if this is true. So it seems like it could be a fun slasher. And then the next 2 books are what I would consider books that have human monsters. And then this one is called Dear Laura. It's another Gemma Amor book, very small, a novella. And this one says every year on her birthday, Laura gets a letter from a stranger. That stranger claims to know the whereabouts of her missing friend Bobby. There is a catch. He only tells her what he knows in exchange for something personal. So begins Laura's sordid relationship with a new pen pal built on a foundation of quid pro quo. Her quest for closure will push her to bizarre acts of humiliation and harm, yet no matter how hard she tries, she cannot escape her correspondent's demands. The letters keep coming, and as time passes, they have a profound effect on Laura. So we'll see. I mean, that cover, not sure about that one. And then Robert M. Coates wrote Wisteria Cottage, and this has an introduction by Matilda Rosa. I like this cover. To Florence Hackett and her daughters Eleanor and Louisa, Richard Barry, a handsome young bookstore clerk and aspiring poet, seems a little odd but harmless enough. With his amusing conversation and his eager-to-please attitude, Richard works his way into the Haggett's confidence until he's almost one of the family. When he suggests they rent Wisteria Cottage, a charming seaside residence, it seems to promise a summer of pleasant companionship and fun. What the Hacketts don't know is that Richard is a deeply troubled individual, recently released from a mental institution, and that their relaxing summer holiday will soon turn into a terrifying nightmare. So this one might be a little bit creepier because it seems like something that could really happen. Kelsi gave me 2 books that would work perfectly for my readathon Folklore February. And the first one is The God Provides by Thomas R. Clarke. This has Irish folklore in it. The foothills of upstate New York are alive with something terrifying. It hunts, it tempts, it traps, and there's no escape. Thomas R. Clarke reinvents Irish mythology and takes you on a bloody, emotional, and horrific journey back through time with the tale of the McIntyre clan and the devastating secrets they hold. It sounds like this one will be a good time. And then the other one is called The Cottonley Cuckoo. This is by A.J. Elwood, and this has to do with fairies. Captivated by books and stories, Rose dreams of a life away from the confines of the Sunnyside care home she works in until elderly resident Charlotte Favell offers an unexpected glimpse of enchantment. She keeps an aged stack of letters about the Cottonleaf fairies, the photographs made famous by author Conan Doyle, but later dismissed as a hoax. The letters insist there is proof that the fairies existed. Rose is eager to learn more, but Charlotte allows her to read only a piece at a time, drawing Rose into her web. This sounds like it's going to be a lot of fun. It is a dark fantasy with horror elements. She also included 2 zombie books, and y'all know how much I love zombies. And these 2 books will work perfectly for Zombie-thon, which I host in May. And the first one is Ghoul by Brian Keene. I've been wanting to read something by Brian Keene for some time, so I'll get to start with Ghoul. There is something in the local cemetery that comes out at night. There is something unearthing corpse and killing people. It's the summer of 1984, and Timmy and his friends are looking forward to no school, comic books, and adventure. But instead, they will be fighting for their lives. The ghoul has smelled their blood, and it is after them. It sounds like it's going to be really great. I love that it's set in 1984, and this apparently has been made into a movie. And then the other book I'm very excited to read. It's called The Zombie Bake Off by Stephen Graham Jones. I know it's probably going to be very silly, but it's donuts plus zombies plus wrestlers, and it equals awesome. I just think it's going to be a good time. I love that it has to do with a bake-off, and I also love that it's been written by Stephen Graham Jones. So I'm looking forward to reading this one in May. The next 6 books are all books that are part of a series, so they are the first book in each of their series. And the first book is Gone to See the Riverman by Christopher Triana. I know that this book is considered extreme horror, so I'm not really sure if this is going to be the book for me. But it is about Laurie's obsession with Edmund Cox, who was convicted of butchering more than 20 women. She will do anything to get close to him, so when he gives her a task, she accepts. She has no idea of the horror that awaits her. The next book is called Camp Midnight. This is by Stephen T. Siegel and Jason Adam Katzenstein. I think this is going to be a lot of fun. It is a graphic novel. I love the cover. It's a middle grade. There's something creepy creeping around Camp Midnight. Not wanting to please her step monster, reluctant camper Sky is dead set on not fitting in when she's sent away to summer camp. Luckily, that won't be a problem as Sky accidentally boarded the wrong bus, and everyone at Camp Midnight, with the exception of fellow camper and fast friend Mia, is a full-fledged monster. This sounds like it is going to be a good time, a fun time, perfect for the summer. And then the next book is Ring, and this is by Koji Suzuki. It's a translated work. Now, you've heard of the movie The Ring, so this is supposed to be the book that movie is based on. Now, I've heard mixed feelings about this book. Some people like it and others do not. A mysterious videotape warns that the viewer will die in 1 week unless a certain unspecified act is performed. Exactly 1 week after watching the tape, 4 teenagers die one after another of heart failure. Asakawa, a hardworking journalist, is intrigued by his niece's inexplicable death. His investigation leads him from a metropolitan Tokyo teeming with modern society fears to a rural Japan, a mountain resort, a volcanic island, and a countryside clinic haunted by his past. So not really sure. I'll have to think about it if I decide to read it. But like I said, it's gotten some mixed reviews. And then this book is a YA fantasy. So maybe dark fantasy, but it's called Shadow and Bone by Leigh Bardugo. I have not read anything by Leigh Bardugo yet, but I do have a couple of her books. And this is in the Grishaverse universe. Orphaned and expendable, Alina Starkov is a soldier who knows she may not survive her first trek across the Shadow Fold, a swath of unnatural darkness crawling with monsters. But when her regiment is attacked, Alina unleashes dormant magic not even she knew she possessed. Now Alina will enter a lavish world of royalty and intrigue as she trains with the Grisha, her country's magical military elite, and falls under the spell of their notorious leader, the Darkling. He believes Alina can summon a force capable of destroying the Shadow Fold and reuniting their war-ravaged country, but only if she can master her untamed gift. And they have two other books, it looks like, on the back of this: Siege and Storm and Ruin and Rising. So, I don't know. I don't read a whole lot of fantasy, but I'd be willing to give it a try. And then how this all started off was the fact that she was getting rid of her Dexter book that she had, Darkly Dreaming, Dexter, a novel by Jeff Lindsay. That's how this all got started. She was putting this to the side for me. She knows how much I love Dexter. If you've seen the TV show, this is the book series that it's based on. This is the first in the series. Meet Dexter Morgan, a polite wolf in sheep's clothing. He's handsome and charming, but something in his past has made him abide by a different set of rules. He's a serial killer whose one golden rule makes him immensely likable. He only kills bad people. So I'm excited to check this out. I love the series. My husband and I watched the entire series, and even the new series that came out like after the fact, years after the fact. And it was fine. It was just nice to spend time with Dexter Morgan. But I'm looking forward to reading that one. And if I like it, I'll read the rest of the series. I know that it kind of deviates, and a lot of times that's what happens with TV shows. And then the last book is a gothic thriller. What I like about this book is it's also isolated, and it seems like it's going to be in a snowy setting. And it happens to be the first book in the Ellen Warner series, and this is a debut. It's called The Sanitarium by Sarah Peirce. But I already like the cover. Look at that big house, snow, isolation. I'm intrigued by all of that. Half hidden by forest and overshadowed by threatening peaks, Le Sommet has always been a sinister place. Long plagued by trouble and rumors, the former abandoned sanitarium has since been renovated into a 5-star minimalist hotel. An imposing, isolated getaway spot in the Swiss Alps is the last place Ellen Warner wants to be. But Ellen's taken time off from her job as a detective, so when her estranged brother Isaac and his fiancée Laurie invite her to celebrate their engagement at the hotel, Ellen really has no reason not to accept. Arriving in the midst of a threatening storm, that sounds right up my alley, Ellen immediately feels on edge. There's something about the hotel that makes her nervous. So I think this is going to be fantastic because it's got all of the ingredients that I think makes for a perfect scary story. The next book also takes place in an isolated, snowy setting, and it is called All the White Spaces by Allie Wilkes. This is a historical horror fiction novel that takes place in the wake of World War I. Jonathan Morgan stows away on an Antarctic expedition determined to find his rightful place in the world of men. When disaster strikes in Antarctica's frozen Weddell Sea, the men must take to the land and overwinter somewhere which immediately seems both eerie and wrong, a place not marked on any of their part-drawn maps of the vast white continent. Now completely isolated, Randall's expedition has no ability to contact the outside world, and no one is coming to rescue them. In the freezing darkness of the polar night, where the aurora creeps across the sky, something terrible has been waiting to lure them out into the deadly landscape. Louis Greenberg says, reads like the Terra meets the Thing in Antarctica. I think this would be good. It's kind of chunky, but it sounds good. And then I have a collection of short stories that is called Experiments, a dark biotech anthology. And this is a group of stories, and apparently This is a charity anthology. It's engineered to bring exposure to its contributors and provide funding to help support the homeless. The proceeds from each sale go directly to that cause. Now, of all of the authors that are included in this collection, I only recognize C.J. Tudor, haven't read anything by C.J. Tudor, and David Sodergren, which I did read a book over the summer by him called Dead Girl Blues. So, some short stories that I can dig into. And then the next group of books all are what I would consider YA, maybe coming of age books. And the first one is called Touch the Night by Max Bruth III. I like the cover. And this one sounds really good. Something sinister is hiding in the small town of Percy, Indiana, and 12-year-old Joshua Washington and Alonzo Jones are about to find themselves up close and personal with it. After a harmless night of petty property damage leads to the unthinkable, the red and blue lights of a cop car are the last things these boys want to see, especially a cop car driven by someone or something not human. Enter Mary Washington and Otessa Jones. Their sons have been best friends for years, and now Josh and Alonzo have been abducted in the dead of night. Worst of all, the local sheriff refuses to believe they're missing, leaving it up to Mary and Otessa to take the law into their own hands before a family of ungodly lunatics can complete a ritual decades in the making. So it also says Stranger Things and the Texas Chainsaw Massacre unite to form a blood-soaked matrimony of violence and corruption. It sounds really good. And I love that it is a coming of age novel. The next is Full Tilt by Neal Shusterman. Never read anything by Neal Shusterman either. 16-year-old Blake and his younger brother Quinn are exact opposites. Blake is the responsible member of the family. He constantly has to keep an eye on the fearless Quinn, whose thrill-seeking sometimes goes too far. But the stakes get higher when Blake has to chase Quinn into a bizarre phantom carnival that traps its customers forever. Kind of gives me those Empty Smiles vibes from the series of Small Spaces by Catherine Arden. And then this one is a YA occult mystery thriller. It's called Minor Prophets by Jimmy Cajoles, maybe, or Cajoles. Not sure on the pronunciation. Sorry about that. Cats that weren't really there, ragged man peering into his bedroom window, violent storms wiping out everything in their path, and much more. These are some of the visions that Lee has. His mother and his sister Murphy have done all they can to keep Lee grounded in the real world, but when his mother dies in a car accident, her terrible cop husband tries to adopt Lee and Murphy, and they have no choice but to flee to their grandmother. She lives on a property known as the farm, which Lee and Murphy have only heard about in stories. So they're not really thrilled to be there, and they're wondering why they never did visit their grandmother. So it seems like there's something creepy happening in the woods or the area close to the grandmother's farm. I don't know, that kind of creeps me out, but I want to give it a chance. At least try anyway. And then the last one in this series, this like group or category, is Camp Neverland by Lisa Quigley. This happens to be the 29th book in that Rewind or Die series or collection. And I'm not really sure if it is coming of age. I think it might be. Camp Neverland is special. At least that's what it said on the mysterious brochure. But when Max arrives to discover her tormentor, Chuck Snyder, is there too, her hopes for a magical summer are dashed. Still, the bond she develops with her cabin mates feels almost too good to be true, and when the kids start dying in gruesome ways, Max hides a frightening secret. She soon learns just how far she'll go to belong. So it sounds like it might be good for like the summer, and again, it seems like it is a coming-of-age story. And last, but certainly not least, is the nonfiction book that Kelsi gave me. It is The Girl in Alfred Hitchcock's Shower, a murder that became a real-life mystery, a mystery that became an obsession. And this is by Robert Graysmith. He is the author of Zodiac. And so it is a true crime novel, and it happens to be about Marley Renfro, who wasn't a famous star, but she was the voluptuous model who played an integral part in one of the most iconic scenes in American film as Janet Leigh's nude body double in Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho. That same year, she appeared in a nudie cutie directed by newcomer Francis Ford Coppola, decorated the cover of Playboy magazine, and became one of Hugh Hefner's first bunnies. For a beautiful starlet like Marley, Hollywood in 1963 was beginning to look like a place where fantasies came true, but for others, those fantasies became nightmares that bled into real life. And so apparently she disappears from what I was reading. I have never heard anything about this case, so it seems like it might be interesting to read. I don't read a whole lot of true crime, but it's connected to the Psycho film, so I'm willing to give it a chance. Well, friends, that's my book haul. For all of my horror friends out there who know my taste in horror and what I like and what I don't like, are there any books that I shared today that you think I should not read? Please let me know in the comments below. I will take what you say seriously. Now, Kelsi has not flagged any of these books, and she knows which type of books I like when it comes to the horror genre. And speaking of Kelsi, thank you so very much for all of my new to me books. I love you and appreciate you. And as far as appreciation, I appreciate all of you. Thank you so much for stopping by and for watching. And until our paths cross again, stay amazing and be adventurous.